The ancient warning. The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council building stretched across the horizon like a frozen ocean. Inside, creatures from 1,000 different worlds filled the enormous chamber. Some walked on four legs, others floated in bubbles of their home atmosphere. A few existed as pure energy, their forms shimmering like living lightning. Elder Archivist Kelthara stood at the center podium, her 6 arms holding ancient artifacts that seemed to glow with their own inner light. The Vorthak were known throughout the galaxy as the keepers of history. Their species lived for thousands of years, and they never forgot anything they learned. Fellow beings of the Council, Kelthara's voice echoed through the chamber, translated instantly into hundreds of languages. What I am about to show you has been found on dead worlds across our galaxy. These warnings appear in ruins that are millions of years old. The first artifact she raised was a stone tablet, covered in strange markings. The symbols seemed to shift and change as delegates looked at them, each species seeing the message in their own ancient writing. When the young species with 2 hearts learns to reach beyond their cradle, she read aloud, do not provoke them. They are the universe's answer to impossible odds. Murmurs filled the chamber. Some delegates laughed, their sounds ranging from musical chimes to deep rumbles. Others remained silent, thinking about what they had heard. Admiral Thexvar of the Zephyrian Empire stood up from his seat. His species looked like giant lizards covered in blue scales. Their eyes glowed red when they were angry, and right now Thexvar's eyes burned like small suns. Ancient superstitions, he declared, his voice booming across the chamber. We are the masters of this galaxy now. We have conquered 50 star systems. Our weapons can destroy entire planets. What could some primitive species possibly do to threaten us? Kelthara held up another artifact. This one was a data crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. This was found in the ruins of the Maker civilization. They were the most advanced species we know of. They built machines that could reshape stars. Yet they left the same warning. The crystal projected images into the air above the chamber. Ancient beings that looked like walking trees carved the same symbols into metal that would last forever. Their cities had been beautiful beyond imagination, full of towers that reached into space itself. The Makers vanished overnight, Kelthara continued. Their entire civilization simply stopped existing. We found only these warnings and empty cities. Whatever destroyed them was powerful enough to erase all traces of their technology. Counselor Vexhai of the Crystalline Collective spoke up. Her species looked like living gemstones, their bodies made of materials harder than diamond. You speak of warnings about a species with 2 hearts. Do you know what this means? Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had heard rumors about a new species that had recently been discovered. A species that came from a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. We believe these warnings refer to the humans, Kelthara said quietly. The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates laughed even louder. Others began talking urgently among themselves. The humans were barely more advanced than cave dwellers compared to the great powers of the galaxy. Director Molvek of the Science Division stood up. His species had evolved from creatures like octopuses, with tentacles instead of arms and large, intelligent eyes. The humans are currently under observation quarantine in their home system. Our studies show they are indeed unusual, but hardly threatening. In what way are they unusual? Asked Counselor Yathara of the Peaceful Federation. Molavec consulted his datapad. They have only 1 heart, but their emotional capacity suggests the warnings refer to something else. Perhaps their dual nature. They can be incredibly kind or unimaginably cruel. They show love for their young that borders on obsession, yet they have spent most of their history fighting each other. They fight constantly, Admiral Thexvar interrupted. Perfect soldiers for our armies. We should conquer them and add their warriors to our forces. That would be unwise, warned Elder Sage Quintel. His species, the Watchers, were among the oldest in the galaxy. They rarely spoke in council meetings, but when they did, others listened. We have observed humans for 50 of their years. They do not fight like other species. How do they fight differently? Asked Director Molvek. Most species fight over territory, resources, or dominance, Quintel explained. Humans fight over ideas. They will die for concepts that exist only in their minds. They call these concepts freedom, justice, love. They become more dangerous when they believe their cause is right. Admiral Thexvar's scales rippled with amusement. Ideas cannot stop plasma cannons. Concepts cannot destroy battle fleets. You speak nonsense, old one. Kelthera held up the final artifact. This one was different from the others. It looked organic, like it had grown instead of being made. This comes from the archive world of the eternal memory. The beings there stored all knowledge in living crystals that could think and remember. Before their world died, they sent this message into space. The organic crystal began to pulse and a voice filled the chamber. It sounded ancient and tired, like someone who had seen too much. We who have watched the stars be born and die leave this warning for those who come after. In the outer rim of the galaxy lives a species that appears weak. They have soft skin and fragile bones. They live for less than 100 cycles. They seem like easy prey. The voice paused and the chamber fell completely silent. Do not be fooled. They are not weak. They are the ones the universe creates when it needs the impossible to happen. They do not surrender. They do not give up. They do not forgive threats to their kind. If you see the ships of Earth, if you meet the children of Terra, do not raise your weapons against them. For they are the answer to every extinction, the solution to every hopeless battle. They are what happens when evolution decides that survival is not enough. The crystal stopped pulsing and went dark. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Admiral Thexvar began to laugh. His laughter was deep and threatening, like rocks falling down a mountain. Fairy tales, he declared, stories to frighten children. The Zephyrian Empire fears no one, especially not some primitive apes from a backwater planet. But not everyone was laughing. The older species, the ones who had seen civilizations rise and fall, looked worried. They remembered other warnings that had been ignored. They had seen what happened to species who thought themselves masters of the universe. Counselor Prime Zareth called for order. The question before us today is simple. Do we accept the humans into our galactic community, or do we continue to keep them isolated? I propose a formal evaluation, Admiral Thexvar announced. Send a diplomatic mission to their world. Show them our power. Make them understand their place in the galactic order. If they submit properly, we can consider allowing them limited membership. Several delegates nodded agreement. It seemed reasonable. Most new species needed to understand galactic hierarchy before joining. But Elder Sage Quintel spoke one final warning. The humans have a saying in their language. They say to let sleeping dogs lie. We would be wise to remember this advice. What is a dog? Asked Admiral Thexvar. A creature they tamed from wolves, Quintel replied. They turned the most dangerous pack hunters on their planet into loyal companions. Think about what kind of species can do such a thing. The vote was called. By a narrow margin, the Council approved the diplomatic mission to Earth. Admiral Thexvar volunteered to lead it personally. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Kelthera remained behind, staring at the ancient artifacts. She whispered an old Vorthak prayer for those who go willingly into darkness. Somewhere in the depths of space, an automated probe sent a simple message toward a small blue planet. They are coming. First contact gone wrong. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, like predators surrounding wounded prey. 20 massive warships arranged themselves in a perfect formation, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could crack planets open like eggs. Admiral Thexvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Conquest of Stars. Through the viewing screen, he could see the small blue planet that housed the humans. It looked so peaceful, so helpless. White clouds swirled over green and brown continents. How could such a quiet world inspire the ancient warnings they had heard? Sir, reported his communications officer, we are receiving multiple transmissions from the planet. They appear to be trying to communicate. Ignore them for now, Thexvar ordered. First, they need to understand what they are dealing with. The Admiral had planned this moment carefully. The humans needed to see Zephyrian power before any talking began. Fear was the foundation of respect, and respect was the beginning of proper submission. Target the small landmass in their southern ocean, he commanded, the one with no cities. Show them what our weapons can do. The ship's main cannon charged with a sound like thunder, energy that could vaporize mountains gathered in the weapon's core. Then, with a flash of blue light, the beam struck the uninhabited island below. For a few seconds there was nothing. Then the island simply ceased to exist. Where there had been land and trees and rocks, now there was only boiling ocean. The blast was visible from space, a bright flash followed by massive waves spreading in all directions. Now, Admiral Thexvar said with satisfaction, open communications. On Earth, in the emergency session of the United Nations, President Chen Wei watched the destruction on the main screen. Around her, leaders from every nation sat in stunned silence. The aliens had just demonstrated that they could erase any city, any country, any continent they chose. "Mr. Secretary General," she said quietly, "I believe our visitors wish to speak with us." The main screen flickered, and Admiral Thexvar's image appeared. His red eyes glowed with confidence as he looked down at the human leaders. "People of Earth," he began, his voice translated by alien technology. "I am Admiral Thexvar of the Zephyrian Empire. What you have just witnessed is a small demonstration of our power. We represent the Galactic Council, and we have come to offer you a choice." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "You may join the galactic community under our guidance. This requires certain conditions. You will surrender all weapons of war. You will accept technological limitations to prevent you from threatening peaceful species. You will provide tribute in the form of resources and your most intelligent individuals for galactic service." President Chen stood up slowly. She was not a tall woman, but her presence filled the room. Behind her, military advisors and scientists waited for her response. "Admiral Thexvar," she said, her voice steady and clear, "we thank you for making contact with us. We are honored to learn that we are not alone in the universe." Thexvar nodded approvingly. The human leader understood the situation. "However," President Chen continued, "we must respectfully decline your offer." The alien admiral's eyes flared brighter. "You decline? You saw what we can do to your world." "We saw you destroy an empty piece of land," Chen replied calmly. "We also saw that you chose not to harm our people. This tells us that you need something from us, or you would have simply taken what you wanted." Secretary of Defense Martinez leaned forward. "Our answer is simple, Admiral. We appreciate the contact, but Earth will not submit to subjugation disguised as membership. If you wish to establish peaceful relations, we are willing to talk. If you wish to threaten us, then we have nothing more to discuss." Admiral Thexvar could not believe what he was hearing. These primitive creatures were refusing the generous offer of their galactic superiors. They had just seen their island vaporized, and they were still defiant. "You do not understand your situation," he said, his voice growing dangerous. "We offer you the choice to join willingly. If you refuse, we will take what we need anyway." Ambassador Sarah Chen, the president's daughter, stepped forward. She had studied xenopsychology and had prepared for this moment. "Admiral, our species has a saying, 'The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing.' We have seen what happens when civilizations submit to bullies. Our answer is no." The transmission ended abruptly. On the flagship, Admiral Thexvar stared at the blank screen in rage. His scales rippled with anger as he turned to his officers. "They refuse our generous offer," he announced. "Very well. Begin the bombardment of their major cities. Target their military installations first. When they beg for mercy, we will consider accepting their surrender." But as the Zephyrian fleet prepared to attack, something strange was happening on Earth. In every city, in every town, in every village, humans were receiving the same message on their phones, computers, and televisions. "This is your president speaking. We are not alone in the universe. Visitors from space have demanded our surrender. They have threatened to destroy us if we do not submit. Our answer is the same answer humanity has given to every tyrant throughout history. No." The message continued. "Today, we stand together as one species, one people, one world. We do not seek war, but we will not accept slavery. Every human being, regardless of nation or belief, is now part of Earth's defense. Contribute what you can where you can. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We will survive this too." Something awakened in the human collective consciousness that day. It was not magic or mystical power. It was something far more dangerous, the complete unity of a species that felt threatened with extinction. In laboratories around the world, scientists began working with an intensity they had never known before. The alien ships were broadcasting on specific frequencies. Their weapons used recognizable energy patterns. Their shields operated on principles that human physics could understand. Military commanders coordinated across national boundaries that suddenly seemed meaningless. Weapons that had been pointed at each other for decades were now aimed at the sky. Ordinary citizens began to contribute in ways no one had expected. Engineers designed new systems. Programmers wrote code. Factory workers retooled production lines. Even children helped by freeing up adults for more critical tasks. Admiral Thexvar ordered the first bombing run 3 hours after the humans' refusal. His fighters screamed down through Earth's atmosphere, targeting military bases and government buildings. They were met by a wall of defensive fire that should not have existed. The humans had somehow coordinated their primitive weapons into a unified defense network. Missiles that had been designed to fight each other were now working together to bring down alien fighters. When the first Zephyrian ship was destroyed by human weapons, Admiral Thexvar realized he had made a terrible mistake. The explosion lit up the sky over Washington, D.C., and humans around the world watched their defenders draw first blood. That night, as alien ships burned in Earth's atmosphere, President Chen addressed the world again. "Today, we learned that we are not the strongest species in the universe," she said. "But strength is not what defines us. What defines us is that we do not quit. We do not give up. We do not surrender when faced with extinction." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "Admiral Thexvar, you wanted to see what humans are capable of. You destroyed an empty island and called it a demonstration of power. Tonight, we destroyed your ships and called it Tuesday. If you want to see what we can really do, keep threatening us." The message was broadcast on all frequencies, including the alien communication channels. Admiral Thexvar received the transmission on his bridge, surrounded by reports of lost fighters and damaged ships. For the first time in his military career, he felt something he had never experienced before. He felt afraid. Outside his viewport, the small blue planet continued to spin peacefully in space. But now he knew that its peaceful appearance was the most dangerous lie in the universe. The humans had just taught the Zephyrian Empire the first lesson in what would become known as the Terran Wars. Never mistake kindness for weakness. It was a lesson written in burning wreckage falling through Earth's sky. The swarm awakens, Doctor. Elena Vasquez had not slept in 4 days. Her eyes were red with exhaustion, but her mind had never been sharper. Around her in the underground laboratory beneath CERN, the greatest scientific minds on Earth worked with desperate intensity. "The energy signature from their weapon shows a quantum cascade pattern," she announced to her team. "If we can reverse the polarity and create an interference wave, it would disrupt their shields," finished Dr. James Park, looking up from his calculations. "Elena, this is brilliant, but we need exotic matter to make it work." "Already on it," called Dr. Amara Singh from across the room. She held up a small container that glowed with strange light. "The wreckage from their crashed fighters contains materials we've never seen before. I've managed to isolate the key components. Above them, the world had changed completely in just 1 week. The alien attack had triggered something that military historians would later call the Great Awakening. Humanity had discovered that when faced with extinction, they could accomplish impossible things. In Beijing, General Liu coordinated with military leaders from every nation on Earth. Old enemies worked together as if they had been allies for centuries. Russian missiles protected American cities. Chinese satellites guided European fighters. Israeli technology merged with Iranian engineering. "Report from Sector 7, announced Colonel Martinez. "Our fighters are holding the line, but we need better weapons. The alien armor is too strong for conventional missiles." "Dr. Vasquez's team has a solution," General Liu replied. "They're working on something they call quantum torpedoes. First batch should be ready in 6 hours. 6 hours. 3 months ago, developing a new weapon would have taken years. Now humans were creating technology that had never existed before, in less time than it took to cook a turkey. The secret was not just human intelligence. It was human desperation combined with human cooperation. Every person on Earth understood that if they failed, their species would cease to exist. Admiral Thexvar studied the reports from his fleet with growing concern. In 1 week, the humans had shot down 40 of his fighters. Their defenses were getting stronger every day. Somehow they were learning from every attack and adapting faster than should be possible. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, "we've intercepted human communications. They're sharing all technical information freely. Every discovery made by one group is immediately sent to all other groups." "That's impossible," Thexvar declared. "No species shares military secrets during wartime." "The humans are, sir. They've created what they call an open-source war effort. Every scientist, engineer, and inventor on their planet is working together." Admiral Thexvar felt his confidence begin to crack. This was not how warfare was supposed to work. Species were supposed to fight among themselves even while facing external threats. They were supposed to hoard their best weapons and technology. They were supposed to be selfish and divided. But somehow the humans had turned their entire planet into a single weapon. On Earth, the impossible was happening every hour. In Detroit, car factories were building spacecraft using principles learned from captured alien technology. In Tokyo, electronics manufacturers were creating computer systems that could predict alien attack patterns. In Mumbai, software engineers were writing programs that turned every connected device into part of a planetary defense network. The most remarkable transformation was happening in the smaller cities and towns. In rural Kansas, farmers were using their tractors to build missile launchers. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous tribes were using traditional hunting knowledge to track alien scouts. In the Arctic, researchers were building weapons that used extreme cold as a weapon. Maria Santos stood in her kitchen in Mexico City, helping coordinate food distribution for the entire continent. Her neighbors were building radio equipment in their garages. Her children were solving mathematical equations that helped aim the city's defenses. The entire human species had become a military organization, but one unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Incoming transmission from the alien fleet," announced the communication officer at Global Defense Command. President Chen authorized the connection. Admiral Thexvar's image appeared on the screen, but he looked different now. His confident smile was gone. His red eyes showed uncertainty. "People of Earth," he began, "you have fought bravely, but you cannot win. My fleet carries weapons that can destroy your entire planet. Surrender now, and we will spare your major population centers." President Chen looked tired but determined. Behind her, advisors from every nation waited for her response. "Admiral," she said simply, "you had your chance to leave in peace. You chose war instead. Now you get to see why the universe left warnings about us. You are one small planet against the might of the Zephyrian Empire," Thexvar replied. "We have conquered 50 star systems. And we're about to show you why the other 49 will be your last," Chen answered. The transmission ended. Admiral Thexvar turned to his tactical officer. "Begin the planetary bombardment. Target their largest cities. Make them understand the price of defiance." "Sir," the officer hesitated, "we're detecting some unusual activity on the planet's surface." "What kind of activity?" "They appear to be launching something." Multiple launches from all continents. On the main screen, dots of light rose from Earth's surface like a swarm of angry insects. Hundreds of them, then thousands. "What are those?" Thexvar demanded. "Unknown, sir. They're too small to be ships, too large to be missiles." Dr. Elena Vasquez watched from the command center as her quantum torpedoes streaked toward the alien fleet. Each one contained technology that had been theoretical just days ago. Each one represented the combined knowledge of humanity's greatest minds. But more importantly, each one carried something the aliens didn't understand. Human determination made manifest. The first torpedo reached the Zephyrian flagship and detonated against its shields. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the shields began to flicker and fade. "Impossible," breathed Admiral Thexvar. "Our shields are impenetrable." "Not anymore," Dr. Vasquez whispered from Earth. The second wave of torpedoes struck home. Alien ships that had seemed invincible began to take damage. Their perfect formations broke apart as captains tried to avoid the impossible weapons that shouldn't exist. "Sir," reported the tactical officer, "we're losing ships. Whatever those weapons are, they're disrupting our technology at the quantum level." Admiral Thexvar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His mighty fleet, the pride of the Zephyrian Empire, was being torn apart by a species that had been using rockets just 50 years ago. "How is this possible?" he whispered. On Earth, President Chen addressed the world once more. "Today we learned something important about ourselves. When we work together, when we fight for our survival, when we refuse to give up, there is no force in the universe that can stop us." She paused. Watching alien ships burn in the darkness of space, Admiral Thexvar wanted to know what humans are capable of. This is just the beginning. As the first Zephyrian capital ship exploded in a burst of brilliant light, every human on Earth felt the same emotion. Pride. Not pride in their individual achievements, but pride in what they could accomplish as a species. The aliens had awakened, something that had been sleeping in human DNA since their ancestors. first looked up at the stars and wondered. What was out there? They had awakened the swarm, and the swarm was angry. The pack mentality. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in complete chaos. Delegates from hundreds of species filled the chamber, all talking at once. The massive viewing screens showed real-time footage from the Sol system, where something unprecedented was happening. Admiral Thexvar's proud fleet was retreating. "This is impossible," declared Minister Kuxai of the Hegemony Worlds. "The Zephyrian Empire has never retreated from a primitive species." Elder Sage Quintel of the Watchers sat quietly in his chair, but his ancient eyes held a look that might have been satisfaction. "We tried to warn them," he said softly. On the main screen, they watched human ships pursuing the retreating Zephyrian fleet. The human vessels looked crude compared to the sleek alien designs, but they moved with deadly purpose. More importantly, they fought like no species the Council had ever observed. Director Mulvek of the Science Division was frantically analyzing the combat data. "Look at this," he announced to the chamber. "The humans are not just fighting as individuals or even as military units. They're fighting as a single organism." The screen showed tactical displays of the battle. Human ships moved in perfect coordination, but not because of superior communication technology. They seemed to anticipate each other's actions, working together with an instinct that went beyond training. "When one human ship is damaged," Mulvek continued, "others immediately move to protect it. When one discovers a weakness in alien defenses, that information instantly spreads to every human force. They share victories and failures as if they were all part of the same mind." Admiral Kethvar, Thexvar's cousin, stood up from the Zephyrian delegation. His scales were pale with shock. "Request immediate reinforcement of the Sol system. Send the 2nd and 3rd battle fleets." "You want to send more ships?" asked Counselor Prime Zareth. "Your cousin requested reinforcements 3 days ago." "Where are those fleets now?" The answer appeared on the viewing screen. The 2nd fleet was scattered across 3 star systems, individual ships fleeing human pursuit. The humans had somehow learned to track Zephyrian vessels through faster-than-light travel, and were hunting them down one by one. "How are they following our ships through hyperspace?" Admiral Kethvar demanded. Dr. Elena Vasquez could have answered that question. Deep in her laboratory on Earth, she was working with technology that shouldn't exist. The alien ships used quantum entanglement for their faster-than-light drives. Once you understood the principle, you could track the quantum signatures like footprints in space. But Dr. Vasquez wasn't just a scientist anymore. She was part of something larger. Every discovery she made was instantly shared with research teams in Moscow, Beijing, London, and 100 other cities. Every breakthrough by those teams came back to her within minutes. Humanity had become a collective intelligence focused on a single goal: the complete elimination of any threat to their species. "Ma'am," reported her assistant. "Dr. Park, we're receiving data from the Mars Colony expedition." "What expedition?" Dr. Vasquez asked, confused. "The one that launched yesterday. 300 volunteers took the fastest ships we could build and headed for Mars. They're setting up mining operations to extract materials for ship construction." Dr. Vasquez stared at him. "That's impossible. Mars is 6 months away, even with our fastest rockets." Dr. Park smiled grimly. "Not anymore. The engineering teams in Mumbai figured out how to modify alien drive technology. The Mars expedition will arrive in 4 days." This was what the Galactic Council was seeing, and it terrified them. Humans weren't just defending their home world. They were expanding, growing, spreading through their solar system like a virus that couldn't be contained. In the asteroid belt, human miners were converting space rocks into weapons. On the moon, factories were producing ships at an impossible rate. Around Jupiter, research stations were developing new technologies that violated several known laws of physics. Admiral Thexvar stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship, watching his empire's finest warriors retreat from a species that had been living in caves just a few thousand years ago. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." "Put it through," Thexvar said wearily. President Chen's image appeared on the screen. Behind her, Thexvar could see something that made his blood run cold. Human children were working alongside adults, building weapons with their small hands. The entire species from oldest to youngest had become part of the war effort. "Admiral Thexvar," President Chen said calmly, "we offered you peace. You chose war. Now you get to experience the full attention of an aroused humanity. What do you want? Thexvar asked, his former arrogance completely gone. We want you to leave our solar system and never return. We want you to tell your empire that Earth is not to be touched. We want you to spread the word throughout the galaxy that humans do not forgive threats to their species. And if we refuse? President Chen's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes made the alien admiral step back from his own viewing screen. Then we will hunt down every Zephyrian ship, every Zephyrian world, every Zephyrian colony, and we will end your empire completely, not because we want to conquer you, but because we cannot allow a threat to our children to continue existing. The transmission ended. Admiral Thexvar turned to his tactical officer. How many ships do we have left? Operational? 43 ships out of the original 120. And how many human ships are pursuing us? Over 300, sir. And more are launching every hour. This was the moment Admiral Thexvar understood the ancient warnings. The humans weren't just fighting a war. They were exterminating a threat. They would keep building ships, keep fighting, keep pursuing their enemies until the threat was completely eliminated. They fought like a pack of wolves protecting their young, but with the intelligence and technology of a spacefaring civilization. On Earth, the transformation was complete. Governments still existed, but they were secondary to the species-wide coordination that had emerged. Every human being was now part of Earth's defense, whether they were building weapons, growing food, caring for children, or flying ships into battle. Dr. Singh finished her latest calculations and sent them to the global network. Within minutes, human ships throughout the solar system were using her new shield technology. The aliens' weapons, which had seemed so powerful just weeks ago, were now almost useless against human defenses. Elena, Dr. Park called out. We're getting reports from the outer system monitors. Alien reinforcements are arriving. Dr. Vasquez looked at the tactical display. The third Zephyrian battle fleet had just entered the solar system. 200 fresh ships with undamaged weapons and full supplies. How long before they reach Earth? She asked. 6 hours, Dr. Vasquez smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Send a message to all human forces. Tell them we have visitors. Also activate Project Prometheus. Are you sure? We've only tested it once. We're sure, Dr. Vasquez replied, speaking for the entire human species. It's time to show the galaxy what happens when you really make us angry. Project Prometheus was humanity's greatest secret. For 2 weeks, every human settlement in the solar system had been working on it. Miners in the asteroid belt, colonists on Mars, researchers around Jupiter, even the crew of the space station orbiting Saturn. They had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. As the Zephyrian Third Fleet approached Earth, they had no idea that every asteroid, every space station, every seemingly innocent piece of space debris was actually a carefully positioned component of the largest weapon ever built. Admiral Colthex, commander of the Third Fleet, was confident in his mission. His ships were fresh, his crews were rested, and he had studied the tactical reports from his predecessor's defeat. The humans caught Thexvar by surprise, he told his officers. We know what to expect now. We will not underestimate them. An hour later, as his fleet approached the orbit of Mars, Admiral Colthex received a simple message from Earth. Welcome to our solar system. You should have heeded the warnings. Then the humans showed the Galactic Council what a truly aroused humanity could accomplish. The entire solar system opened fire at once. The universe's answer, Admiral Colthex had commanded fleets for 300 years. He had conquered 12 star systems and subjugated 47 different species. He thought he had seen every possible form of warfare. He was wrong. The attack began from every direction at once. Asteroids that should have been floating harmlessly in space suddenly revealed themselves as massive weapons platforms. The space station orbiting Mars opened like a flower, exposing cannons that could crack moons. Even the dust between planets seemed to come alive with hidden missiles. Evasive maneuvers, Colthex shouted, but there was nowhere to run. The humans had spent 2 weeks turning their entire solar system into a trap, and the Zephyrian fleet had flown directly into its center. The first salvo destroyed 30 ships in 30 seconds. The weapons were unlike anything in the Galactic Council's databases. They seemed to bend the laws of physics, striking through shields that should have been impenetrable, melting armor that had never been damaged before. Sir, his tactical officer reported with panic in his voice, We're detecting weapon signatures from every planetary body in this system. The humans have armed their moons. On Earth's moon, Commander Sarah Martinez watched the alien fleet struggle against Project Prometheus with grim satisfaction. The lunar weapon systems had been her idea. Massive railguns built into the moon's surface, powered by fusion reactors buried miles deep. "Target the command ship," she ordered. "Let's end this quickly." The moon itself seemed to split open as the main cannon fired. A projectile traveling at a significant fraction of light speed crossed the space between Luna and the alien fleet in seconds. Admiral Colthex's flagship simply ceased to exist. On Earth, President Chen watched the battle from the Global Defense Command Center. Around her, military leaders from every nation coordinated the most complex military operation in human history. "Report from the Jupiter station," announced General Du. "Their gravity sling platforms are operational. They're using Jupiter itself as a weapon." The gas giant's immense gravitational field had been turned into a massive slingshot. Human-built projectiles were being accelerated around Jupiter and flung toward the alien fleet at incredible speeds. Each impact was like a small nuclear explosion. "Ma'am," reported Colonel Martinez, "the aliens are trying to retreat." "Let them," President Chen replied calmly. "We're not done with them yet." This was the moment the galaxy learned the most terrifying thing about humans. They didn't fight just to win. They fought to ensure the threat never returned. As the surviving Zephyrian ships fled the Sol system, human vessels pursued them. But these weren't just military ships. Civilian vessels, mining craft, even modified passenger liners had been converted into pursuit craft. Every human in space had become a hunter. Dr. Elena Vasquez monitored the pursuit from her command center. Her teams had developed a new type of weapon specifically for this moment. Tracker mines that could follow ships through faster-than-light travel and broadcast their locations to human forces. "How many alien ships escaped the initial attack?" she asked. 47 out of 200, Dr. Park reported. "But they won't stay escaped for long." On the bridge of his damaged cruiser, Admiral Colthex watched human ships appearing around his fleet like ghosts. Every time they thought they had escaped, more human vessels would materialize from hyperspace. "How are they tracking us?" he demanded. His science officer was studying the sensor readings with growing horror. "Sir, they've somehow learned to use our own faster-than-light drives against us. Every jump we make leaves a quantum signature they can follow. Then we stop jumping. We fight them conventionally. Sir, we have 47 ships left. Intelligence estimates the humans have over 800 vessels in pursuit, with more launching every hour." Admiral Colthex realized he was experiencing something no Zephyrian commander had ever faced: complete defeat at the hands of a supposedly inferior species. But the humans weren't finished. Captain Jennifer Wu commanded the UES Defiance, a ship built in the orbital shipyards around Earth in just 5 days. Her crew was a mix of former commercial pilots, retired military officers, and volunteers who had never been in space before last week. "Captain," reported her tactical officer, "we've cornered 3 alien cruisers in the Proxima Centauri system. Any civilian populations?" "No, ma'am. The system is uninhabited." "Good. No witnesses to complain about our methods." The Defiance and her sister ships moved in for the kill, but instead of simply destroying the alien vessels, they did something that would become legendary throughout the galaxy. They disabled the ships and left them drifting in space with their crews, alive. Then they painted a message on the hulls in letters large enough to be seen from orbit: "Earth remembers." This was the new human doctrine, total warfare combined with psychological terror. They wanted the survivors to spread the word about what happened when you threatened humanity. The Galactic Council watched in stunned silence as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing in Zephyrian territories not to conquer but to hunt. They struck military installations, disabled warships, and left behind the same message: "Earth remembers." Elder Sage Quintel spoke into the shocked silence of the chamber. "They are not seeking territory or resources. They are making sure this never happens again." Director Mulvek pulled up tactical displays showing human ship movements. "Look at their pattern. They're not randomly attacking. They're systematically dismantling the Zephyrian Empire's ability to threaten anyone." On the screen, they could see human forces attacking Zephyrian naval bases, but leaving civilian populations untouched. Military factories were destroyed, but hospitals and schools were protected. It was surgical warfare designed to eliminate a threat while minimizing innocent casualties. They're removing the Zephyrian Empire from existence as a military power, Molavec continued, but they're not committing genocide. They're being precise. Admiral Thexvar, now a prisoner aboard his own flagship, received a communication from Earth. President Chen appeared on his screen, but she looked different now. The stress of the past month had aged her, but her eyes held the steel of someone who had seen her species survive extinction. "Admiral," she said simply, "your empire chose to threaten the existence of humanity. We have responded appropriately." "What do you want from us?" Thexvar asked, his former pride completely broken. "We want the galaxy to understand something very important. We are not conquerors. We do not seek to rule over other species, but we will not tolerate threats to our survival." Behind her, Thexvar could see displays showing the current status of his empire. Over 90% of Zephyrian military assets had been destroyed or captured. Their colonies were intact but defenseless. "Your people can continue to exist," President Chen continued. "Your civilians will not be harmed. Your culture will be preserved. But your ability to threaten other species has been permanently removed. And if we rebuild our military..." President Chen's expression didn't change, but somehow the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Then we will return and remove it again, and again, and again, for as long as necessary." The transmission ended. 6 months later, the Galactic Council convened to address the new reality. The Zephyrian Empire no longer existed as a military power. In its place was a loose confederation of peaceful worlds that spent their time rebuilding their civilization under human oversight. But more importantly, every species in the galaxy had received the same message from Earth. "We come in peace. We seek friendship and cooperation. But if you threaten our species or our allies, you will discover why the universe left warnings about us." Elder Archivist Kelthera stood once again at the center podium, but this time she held new artifacts. Fresh warnings carved in stone, metal, and crystal by species across the galaxy. "Here lies the Zephyrian Empire," she read from the first tablet. "They found out why you don't threaten humanity." The second artifact was more detailed. "To any species that encounters the humans of Earth, they are not the strongest species in the galaxy. They are not the most advanced, but they are the most dangerous when threatened. They fight not just to win, but to ensure their children never face the same threat. Approach them with respect and they will be your greatest allies. Threaten them and they will end you." The final artifact was the simplest and most terrifying. It was a small metal plate with just 4 words in the universal trade language. "Earth remembers. Earth watches." As delegates filed out of the chamber, many were already composing messages to send to Earth. Messages of friendship, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts. Because they had learned the most important lesson in galactic politics. It was much better to have humanity as a friend than as an enemy. In the depths of space, human ships continued their patrol of known space. They were no longer hunting Zephyrian survivors. Now they were protecting the trade routes, assisting colonies in distress, and exploring new star systems. But every ship carried the same message on its hull. "Earth remembers." It was a reminder to the galaxy that humanity had not forgotten the lesson of the ancient warnings. They had become the universe's answer to impossible odds, the solution to every extinction event, the species that appeared when survival was not enough, and the galaxy was better for it.